I'd like to bring Mable Elmore up. She is currently the MLA for Vancouver Kensington, and before that was a longtime activist within the union movement, within the peace movement, women's movement, a variety of different social movements. And she is currently running to be the next NDP MP for Vancouver East for her riding. So.
All right, thanks a lot, Stu, and thanks, Sven, for giving us an overview. And I'd like to echo Sven's acknowledgements that we're on unceded Coast Salish territory. And I'd also like to give a special mention. We have with us here Councillor Deanna George with the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And And I just want to talk a little bit, give you, before I get into comments about my position and my views around Kinder Morgan, a little bit of a background about my interest and my perspective on environmental issues. And I've been a long time social justice activist, but it's always been my view that, you know, there's not a dichotomy between environmental sustainability and environmental justice and social justice, that they're interconnected. And it's interesting that, Sven, you mentioned that it was Rex Weiler who got you involved, or you connected with him, and it just reminded me that I also worked with Rex Weiler, but on a project with the World Peace Forum in 2006 that sought to bring together the environmental movement, progressive people's movement, elected representatives. The city hosted that to really look at how, as a movement, we can advocate for sustainable social change and justice. So my view around environmental activism is that it's, you know, I tell people we are the environment, right? Like, literally, we're made up of the environment, and we rely on our food systems, and it's integrated. So that's my view. It's not an either-or between the environment and a strong economy. So when we get into Kinder Morgan, it informs a little bit my decisions for wanting to run and seek to be the NDP candidate in Vancouver East. And it's clear, many in the room, where we have a room of great activists and community leaders here. And so I'd like to also to recognize you and welcome everybody. When the Enbridge pipeline was coming in, there was strong opposition that was registered against that, and I added my voice in being in strong opposition to Enbridge for a number of reasons that are very similar to why we should oppose Kinder Morgan. So what are those reasons? Sven outlined them. You know, BC will bear all of the risk, all of the environmental risk to spills, and devastating our natural resources, communities, livelihood, tourism, and problems up the coast with oil spills. So BC bears the environmental risk, and it's the Alberta tar sands and those producers that bear the economic benefits. When we talk about jobs, there are, you know, jobs for the construction of the pipeline, sure, but we've heard that Kinder Morgan is also saying that they expect the majority of jobs to be given to temporary foreign workers, who, by the way, don't have access to rights in this country. And I think the number is about 50 long-term jobs here, so we're not seeing the economic benefits. We're not seeing the respect given to First Nations and Indigenous Aboriginal people, and we know that there's the opposition from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. As well, but there's one point about Kinder Morgan I think is distinct when we talk about Enbridge and the position I took and other members of my caucus in the BC NDP, that we're opposing Enbridge. But in addition to Enbridge, Kinder Morgan also characterized it that it's Enbridge on steroids. It's even worse, right? It's a worse project. We saw a widespread opposition to Enbridge, and I think we need to bring more opposition to Kinder Morgan. Why? Because not only the aforementioned problems with it, we get into the lack of accountability, it's compounded by that, the restriction of the democratic participation in decision making. But in addition, it's going to be running through, and we heard about the spill, running through suburban and urban areas, which will have an even bigger impact. So I think these are some of the reasons why it's very clear to me that an expansion of the Kinder Morgan pipeline is not a good decision, and why I wanted to share with you and let it be known that my position is I'm opposed to the expansion of the Kinder Morgan pipeline. I think that it doesn't make economic sense, it doesn't make environmental sense, it doesn't benefit us in East Vancouver or in BC, and that it should be stopped. And that's my position, and that's what I'll be working for in this nomination. And if I'm nominated as the candidate, I will be taking a strong stand and leading the charge, and hopefully working with all of you in a broader based representation from our community, really expressing that view here in East Vancouver, across BC, and across our country. So that's my commitment in terms of taking a position against Kinder Morgan. I want to talk about, and then we'll get into some Q&A. I just want to finish with a couple points. It's one thing to say I'm opposed to Kinder Morgan, the expansion of that pipeline. I think the accompanying piece has to be, I'm also in favor of, we need to invest in our renewable energy sector. And we have to look at what is the piece of transition. It's one thing to say we should not be expanding the pipeline and there are problems with the tar sands development. It has to go hand in hand with an economic vision of our economy and where we need to go in the future. And that is, in my view, investment in clean energy, investment in renewables, and also being very interested in terms of what are those options. And we have to talk about that as Canadians, and we have to start investing in that now around how we transition away from a carbon-based economy. So I'll give you an example. I had a meeting with the chair, the president of the Canadian Geothermal Energy Association. Just 2 months ago, they released a new report showing the potential for geothermal energy in Canada. And BC, we are blessed, has many natural resources, and we also have a lot of potential around geothermal development. So that, along with the decreasing costs for solar and wind power, and we have some tidal opportunities, well, of course, hydro in BC. I think these are the discussions we need to be having as Canadians, and how we invest in these projects and how we move our economy in that direction. The last piece I want to stop Kinder Morgan, despite the Conservative government and the oil and gas lobby and their best efforts to really restrict our democratic ability to have a voice. I think the answer lies, and it's not a secret, it lies in how we have achieved anything worthwhile in our country, whether it's our health care, which Canadians hold as our national pride, whether it's our public education system, whether it's arts and culture, which we need to invest more in. These have only come about because people have organized, communities have come together, and we have pushed that agenda. And I think that's where we need to get back to, and I think that is the future of politics, around progressive politics, and what we want to do here in Vancouver East. And so, for example, around opposition to Kinder Morgan, I have a plan not only to join together with the work that's been going, but to expand the coalition, the work that I've been doing as an MLA around connecting communities, around climate change, for example. We need to see a broader base of our society involved in these issues that impact us. So, for example, we worked with our diverse immigrant communities, right? We held a press conference around the impact of climate change with our Chinese, Filipino, Vietnamese, and South Asian to bring them in to the discussion. That's what we need to do to connect those issues and bring those folks in. We need to have a broader reach, and we need to have a bigger voice, and we need to move harder and take a stand together, because I believe that we share these common values. We need to, I've been to the temple, we need to go talk at the temple. We need to talk at the, I've also been to the Muslim community. We need to talk to them. We need to bring the message broader to a broader expanse of our community and involve them and work together from the grassroots up and from communities, bringing communities together. So that's what I'm about. That's what I've been working on here, even back on the drive over the past 20 years with friends on different issues around social justice, our immigrant rights, our women's rights. And that's, I think, the direction the NDP has to go. The NDP has to do a better job of bringing new people in, of mobilizing people, inspiring them for social change and being effective and moving and getting our issues listened to and getting our priorities addressed. So that's what I'm about. That's where we need to go, where we need to move, and we can do that here. And I'm hoping to also ask for your support for my candidacy for the nomination, and I'm pledging to you my very strong opposition to the expansion of Kinder Morgan, but also to bring communities together, to work for change, and to really bring the needed change we need to see in Vancouver East, across our country, to defeat Stephen Harper, and to bring the change to reclaim our country and our values that all of us here, and I think the majority of Canadians, share. So I'll leave it at that, and then we can have some